Hey folks, welcome to the 30 Days to Learn Adobe After Effects course. My name is Vincent Nguyen, and today's lesson we're going to be taking a look at keyframes and animating parameters within After Effects. So in the previous two lessons we took a look at how to apply effects, how to use presets and such like that. In this lesson we're going to be taking a look at how to animate those parameters, how to create an actual animation rather than having a still image of our animation here. So we're going to take a look at how to add a movement and add some life and animation into our scene in After Effects. So here we are in After Effects. Let me go ahead and apply a preset similar to what we did last time. I'm going to apply the Pixel Storm preset. And remember that this is just simply the card wipe effect. So just like that, we have a very basic animation here. But let's say you wanted to make this animation longer. Right now, the animation lasts approximately 2 seconds, as you see here. So what if we wanted to make this longer? Well, you're going to need to extend the keyframes here. So in After Effects, you can show all keyframes by hitting the U key on the keyboard. So select your layer, hit U on the keyboard, and you'll see 2 keyframes here. Now the first keyframe here is the starting point, as you see here. Let me go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to hide all these parameters here. So we're just taking a look at the actual master control. So as you see here, the transition completion is the parameter that we are animating. And you can see that it has the stopwatch icon clicked. And the first value right here, the first keyframe, is 0%. And 2 seconds forward in, you can see that at the end, the last keyframe here, the transition completion is set to 100. So this is just a really basic concept on how keyframes work. Basically, you can animate the in point and the out point here. So in this case, 0% to 100%. And After Effects will fill in the rest. So as you can see here, in between these 2 keyframes, you can see that we're at 50% here, halfway. You can see that we're at 75% up here. So pretty much all you need to do is animate the in points and the out points, or pretty much animate all the key points, otherwise keyframes. And then After Effects will fill in the rest and do all the work for you. So for an example, if we want to extend this animation to maybe 10 seconds, we would start at 0, 0 with the first keyframe. And then we'll move the last keyframe to 10 seconds. That way, After Effects will take 10 seconds to go from the beginning keyframe to the end keyframe. And that means that the animation is going to last 10 seconds long. So keyframes work and behave very similar to how they work in Sony Vegas or Premiere or any other application that has keyframes like Cinema 4D and 3ds Max. So that's pretty cool, and that's how you pretty much move keyframes around. You just click on them and you can drag them through the timeline as such. But let's say that maybe there's no keyframes, maybe we're not using a preset and there's no keyframes available. So you can highlight these keyframes, hit delete, and it's going to delete the keyframes here. So we're starting fresh here. So how the heck do we create a keyframe in the first place? How do we even get started? So this is just a clean text layer right here with no keyframes applied. There's no animation as you see here. As we're scrubbing through the timeline, there's no animation going on. So we're going to start fresh. So we want to close the card wipe effect down. And I just want to focus on the card wipe master control up here. So we want to animate the transition completion. So how do we create a keyframe? I'm going to go ahead and hit this little stopwatch icon right here. And this is pretty much the keyframe button. When you hit this stopwatch, it's going to automatically create a keyframe as you see here. Now notice how these 2 parameters are the exact same thing. We have the transition completion up here, and then we have the transition completion down here. Now by default, you may not see this. You just may see this. So again, remember, to reveal all your keyframes, hit U on the keyboard, and you should bring up all the keyframes. So we have our first keyframe here. And let's say at 10 seconds, we want the animation to shatter out. So we're going to move 10 seconds into the timeline here. And we're ready to set our keyframe. So how do we do this? Down here, you can see that there's a little keyframe button right here. By clicking on it, you can add or remove a keyframe at current time. So in this case, there's no keyframe at 10 seconds long. So we're going to click on this button, and it's going to add a keyframe. And at this point, we're ready to animate our parameters. So once we have a keyframe down, we can actually change the parameter to, let's say, 0. So now, we start at 100% on the first keyframe. And the last keyframe is at 0%, and After Effects is going to fill in data in between. So now we have a really cool transition out animation like that. So what happens if I want to add a keyframe in the middle of these two animations? The same thing applies. After Effects is going to go from one keyframe to the next keyframe, fill it all in, and then progress from that keyframe to the next keyframe, so on and so forth. So After Effects pretty much does all the dirty work for you. You just need to tell After Effects where to go, and it's going to do the rest for you. So when I have this kind of stopwatch checked right here, it's going to watch the properties here. So it's going to watch this parameter, the transition completion, and whenever we change the parameter, it's going to add a keyframe. For an example, if I change this to 80%, you can see that we changed the transition completion. So when we do that, it's going to add a keyframe here. And we'll just move forward here, and maybe we want to make this 25%. So if we just type 25% in, it's going to add another keyframe because we're defining another route. We're defining another key point in time. And that way, After Effects will do all the dirty work. So it's going to start from 100 here. And by the time it reaches the second keyframe, it's going to be at 80. And then it's going to go to 25. And then it's going to go to 0 here. Just like how we defined it. Now, if you create a keyframe really close to each other, for example, right here, maybe we'll set it to 55%. You can see that it's very, very hard to, kind of choose these keyframes and kind of move it around. So you can zoom into the timeline by sliding the slider right here. And it's just going to zoom in, and you can grab your keyframe here and just move it around as such. So notice how I can change parameters two ways. I can either change the parameter right here in the timeline itself in the transition completion, or I can actually edit it in the effects controls panel. Whichever way works best for you. I personally like to work in the timeline itself because it's all here. But of course, you can work however way you want to work. So let's just take a look at the different types of keyframes within After Effects. Now, you see this little diamond here. These are the default keyframes, but there are actually different types of keyframes that we can convert these regular keyframes to. So for an example, if I want to highlight this keyframe here, we can right click and then go to Keyframe Assistant, and then we have three types of keyframes we can choose. Easy Ease, which pretty much eases in the keyframe and eases out the keyframes. Easy Ease In, which is just going to ease the keyframe in, and Easy Ease the keyframe out. So, maybe these are too rough for you. As you see here, the animation kind of just suddenly stops here. I'm going to delete this keyframe here. The animation kind of just suddenly stops here. So maybe we want to easy ease these keyframes in. So I'm going to easy ease these keyframe by right clicking, going to Keyframe Assistant, and then going to easy ease out. That way this keyframe is going to nicely, slowly ease out. And for this keyframe here, maybe I want it to slowly come in. This is kind of just linear. These are just kind of linear keyframes. So it's going from this point to this point to this point to this point. There's no easy ease. There's no none of that ease going on. So maybe we want this thing to ease in slowly. So we can right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and then select Easy Ease In. So it's going to ease in, it's going to ease out, and then maybe I want these keyframes to slowly come together, slowly get to 80% here, slowly get to 25% here. We can easy ease these keyframes so they'll be a little more gentle in our animation here. So Easy Ease or hit F9. And it's just going to slowly smooth in our animations just so it's not too linear, so it's not too blocky. And it's just a really nice way to polish your animations. In a future lesson, we're going to discuss the visual aspects of this using the graph editor. But for now, I just want to show you the different types of keyframes in this lesson. So that's pretty much how you create keyframes and animate stuff within After Effects. Remember, any parameter that has a little stopwatch icon right here, you can actually animate and define the value yourself by just clicking on the little stopwatch icon. It's going to create a keyframe, and then you can hit U on the keyboard to show all keyframes, and then you can mess around to your heart's content. That's pretty much it, guys, for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to be talking about RAM previews and how to preview your results of your animation within After Effects. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video tutorial. If you guys have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me via the forums, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Once again, guys, my name is Vincent Nguyen, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye, guys.